Guys, today is a very special day because Mythic Odysseys of Theros is now live. It is the release date of Theros, and as per usual with all of these D&D books, time to review all of it. But let's not waste any time. We're going to just get right into this book. There was a lot of information to cover here, so let's jump right in. So just like the way I did Explorer's Guide to Wildemount, we're just going to read right from the text itself. No fancy animations. This is going to be just a pure first impressions video, and we're going to start right away with the races that we are getting in Theros. Starting with the humans. They basically just reprinted humans. They didn't do anything to them. Their stats are the same as you would see in the player's handbook. They gave you some new names that you would see in this Greek Theros setting. We're going to move right along to the first new race in Theros, the Centaur. Now, there is a lot of lore found in this book for each of these races, so we're just going to skip right to the stats, the parts that we can directly use. Right away, we have the ability score increase. You get a strength score of +2 and a wisdom score of +1. Very nice. Centaurs mature in age about the same rate as humans. Now, just as I predicted in my race video that I made before regarding the Theros races, the Centaur gets a base walking speed of 40 feet. I speculated that it would have been somewhere between 35 and 40, most likely due to it being a quadrupedal creature. And lo and behold, the Centaur gets a moving speed of 40 feet. So there's that. You are considered a Fae. And this is the charge attack mentioned earlier in the previous guide. If you move at least 30 feet toward a target and hit it with a melee weapon attack, and on the same turn, you can immediately follow that attack with a bonus action, making one attack against the target with your hooves. As for your racial attack, you get your hooves. If you hit them, you deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier instead of the bludgeoning damage for an unarmed strike. You can basically get an additional 1d4 damage by using your bonus action per turn. That's pretty nice just to get on a racial. Equine build, you count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity and weight that you can push or drag, as expected with most sturdily built creatures. In addition, any climb that requires hands and feet is especially difficult for you because of your equine legs. When you make such a climb, each foot of movement costs 4 extra feet instead of 1 foot. So basically, each foot of difficult terrain is doubled. Instead of taking twice your movement speed, it takes 4 times your movement speed. That'll be interesting to see in play. You also get proficiency in either animal handling, medicine, nature, or survival. That's really nice. And you can speed, read, and write Common and Sylvan due to this being a Fey creature. Overall, I do like the way this class was built. I am worried about the 4 times movement penalty that you take over difficult terrain because of your equine build, but we'll have to see if that actually makes a difference in play. Pretty neat race overall. Next up, we have the Leonin, and this is a really cool looking picture here. I like this a lot. There's more lore here, but we can go right to the stats. For your ability score, you get +2 Constitution and +1 Strength. The Leonin mature in age at about the same rate as humans. They are 6 feet tall. They are over 6 feet tall, with some standing over 7 feet with medium size. Interestingly, your base walking speed is 30 feet. This is a humanoid creature, so just a nice 5-foot movement speed is really cool. They get dark vision, which surprisingly, the Centaurs don't get dark vision, even though they're Fey. It's kind of interesting how they didn't include that. I wonder why. The Leonin also have natural weapons, being claws, which you can use to make unarmed strikes. If you hit with them, you can deal slashing damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier instead of bludgeoning damage normal to unarmed strikes. So both of the new classes get natural weapon attacks as part of their racial bonuses. That's very interesting. Makes sense. Hooves and claws would serve as weaponry. They also get Hunter's Instincts. You have proficiency in either athletics, intimidation, perception, or survival. All useful skills all around. These are really good choices for these. They also get the Daunting Roar. As a bonus action, you can let out an especially menacing roar. Creatures of your choice that can hear you within 10 feet must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you until the end of your next turn. The DC equals 8 plus your proficiency plus your constitution modifier. And you can only use this once per short or long rest. Pretty neat racial ability. Once per short rest is nice. They can speak, read, and write Common and Leonin. So a new language introduced in Theros. There is now a Leonin language. So next up, we have a Minotaur, which is already a print in a different book. So we can see if they've done any changes to the Minotaur or if it's just a reprint. Let's see. Strength increases by 2 and Constitution increases by 1. I think that's the exact same as how it was printed before. They get the Horn melee weapon attack that they can use 1d6 plus Strength, which I believe they also had. Goring Rush. Immediately after you use your dash action on a turn, move at least 20 feet, you can make one melee attack with your horns as a bonus action. And Hammering Horns. Immediately after you hit a creature with a melee attack as part of the attack action, you can use your bonus action to attempt to shove a target with your horns. The target must be within 5 feet of you and no more than one size larger than you. Unless it succeeds on a strength saving throw against a DC equal of 8 plus your proficiency plus your strength, you push it 10 feet away. I don't think they had this previously. I could be wrong about that though. A nice interesting addition to this race. Imposing Presence, you have proficiency in either Intimidation or Persuasion, so a bonus in one Charisma skill. You can speak, read, and write Common and Minotaur. I don't believe Minotaur was an existing language in 5th edition. So apparently the abilities of the Minotaur were changed slightly based on previously printed material. The Hammering Horns ability used to just attempt to knock a creature prone. Now it just pushes them back 10 feet, so a bit of a nerf, I think. And the horns were changed. They were originally only 1d8 and plus proficiency bonus. Now they are just 1d6 plus your strength bonus. So not really sure how that changes up anything. It seems like a bit of a nerf in the later game of your character, as your proficiency bonus will scale much higher in the later game than your strength score probably would. But they also could only speak, read, and write Common, so Minotaur was indeed an added language in Theros. So overall, an interesting race with some very slight modifications to previously printed material. Very nice overall, though. Next up, we have the Satyr. More lore here. For their stats, they get +2 Charisma and +1 Dexterity. This is about what I expected based on how this race was teased previously. Your base walking speed is 35 feet again, so this is the 3rd race in a row that gets a higher than normal walking speed. They're considered Fey. You get the Ram ability. You can use your head and horns to make unarmed strikes. If you hit with them, you deal bludgeoning damage equal to 1d4 plus your strength modifier. Magic resistance, you have advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Mirthful leaps, whenever you make a long or high jump, you can roll a d8 and add that number rolled to the number of feet you can cover even when making a standing jump. This extra distance costs movement as normal. That's a little bit unfortunate. Reveler, you have proficiency in performance and persuasion, and you have proficiency with one musical instrument of your choice. So right off the bat, they gain 2 proficiency bonuses. Instead of having to pick one like the other 2 races, they get both performance and persuasion, 2 charisma-based stats, which is interesting because you might have already picked those, but I guess you don't have to at this point. They're really trying to push the Satyr Bard archetype. I don't really know how I feel about that. For languages, they can speak, read, and write Common and Sylvan. They're Fey, makes sense. Next up, we have another reprint of a class of the Triton, which previously was just the merfolk race, but we can see if there were any changes made here. For your ability scores, your strength, constitution, and charisma increased by 1, which is actually a significant bonus, as previously the merfolk race only got a charisma score increased by 1, so this is a huge buff. For the speed, your base walking speed is 30, and you have a swimming speed of 30. That is the same as previously written. You also gain the Control Air and Water trait. You can cast Fog Cloud with this trait. Starting at 3rd level, you can cast Gust of Wind with it, and starting at 5th level, you can also cast Wall of Water with it. Once you cast a spell with this trait, you cannot do it again until you finish a long rest, and Charisma is your spellcasting modifier. Now, the previous Merfolk race did not get anything like this, so this is a huge buff for this race. They get Dark Vision over 60 feet. Aquatic beasts have an extraordinary affinity with your people. You can communicate simple ideas with beasts that can breathe water. They can understand your words, though you have no special ability to understand them in return. Adapted to frigid ocean depths, you have resistance to cold damage. You can speak, read, and write Common and Primordial, which is previously Common and Merfolk, so this is an interesting change here. So comparing these to the Merfolk race, they have gained resistance to cold damage, they've gained the ability to communicate with water beasts, they have gained dark vision, and limited spell casting. This is a huge buff to the Merfolk playable race. I'm interested to see what comes out of this in terms of how powerful this race is as a whole, but a gigantic buff overall, a great reprint due to how weak the Merfolk race was previously. And that is going to do it for the new races / race reprints in Mythic Odysseys of Theros. There have been some fantastic buffs given to some of the weaker classes, some slight changes to already existing material, but the new Satyr and Leonin races are great. I am excited to make some characters with these races and seeing what exactly is possible, but that is going to do it for now. The next video, which should be coming out very shortly after this, is going to cover the subclass options. Right here, we have 2 new subclasses for the Bard and the Paladin. So stay tuned for that coming really soon after this one. And until next time, guys, happy gaming.